Welcome to Beard Club, everyone. It's time to talk about E3. Joining me today is JB Ballantyne.
Howdy, Al. And
McGraw.
Yes.
And not joining us today is everyone else, even though some of them promised they might.
We're a poor man's Matt and Nick stand-in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Mindy went out to a party. She wasn't even pretending to try.
Oh, there!
But basically, what we're going to be talking about today is our general impressions of E3, how we felt it went on a conference-by-conference basis, as well as like individual games as a whole impressions. Probably not a real sentence, but you know what I mean.
All of the keywords were there.
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through conferences, and then at the end we'll sum up with what our sort of overall game of the show was and that sort of stuff. So we'll start out with the third-party conferences. So, and I can't remember exactly what order it was. It was EA to begin with, wasn't it? I believe. So let's start there. Does anyone have anything to say about EA?
I'll level. Didn't watch EA.
Fair enough.
I've been trying to catch up on. I've caught up on just like some of the key points from the third parties. Didn't watch all of Nintendo. Just watched Microsoft and PS4.
What? Says the man who wants a Switch?
I have a Switch. I just didn't watch all of them.
Wow. My only note for EA: if you're actually serious about doing a single-player Star Wars game, seriously, don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
That is the last bone I will throw you. I don't generally enjoy E3 press conferences anyway, because it's mostly a bunch of sports games that I'm not interested in. I appreciate that's not my market, and that's the majority of what they do. But considering they have the Star Wars license and Disney haven't taken it away from them yet, if you do anything like that, the whole what was it? That bounty hunter game that they canned ages ago.
1313.
Yeah.
The one that was supposed to be
trying
like
to do something like that again. Yeah. Just don't fuck it up. But
just don't.
It's it. Just don't do it. Give Star Wars to somebody else and just keep making all your other crap.
Yeah, fair enough. The beginning of EA felt more promising to me, but by the time we got to the Command and Conquer phone game, I was like, oh no, this isn't cool. But I will say the sequel to Unraveled looks cool, because I like a bit of couch co-op. And the other indie game they mentioned, I believe, was called Sea of Solitude. And it looks like a kind of exploration game about overcoming loneliness and depression and stuff, and turning yourself into a human again. It's like
the one with all the monsters, and you need
loads of monster people. That one seems really cool and interesting to me, and I do want to see more of that. That was like the one thing in the whole conference I was like, yeah, okay, I'm into this.
It's a small nugget in a sea of crap.
In a sea of other worse nuggets.
Sea of other worse nuggets sounds like another game that EA might put out.
Yes, they might. So moving on, let's jump to Ubisoft. Anyone got any particular highlights from the Ubisoft conference? I will say, actually,
what are your highlights, Robin?
I'm trying to think. I wasn't super blown away by Ubisoft this year, I have to say. There's not much that's jumping out at me. Actually, the thing that was more interesting to me than I expected it to be was Starlink. And
really,
you could say somewhat skeptically that might just be because Fox McCloud is in it now, but I think that was like that was like the tipping point that gave me a reason to look into the game more. And I actually think it seems pretty interesting. It's fairly ambitious.
See, this was my problem because I missed all of E3 when that happened live. I've subsequently watched E3 in the order that I wanted to watch it in.
Yeah.
So I've had to try and work out watching the presentations out of sequence when certain things were actually announced first. So for me, the Star Fox thing I saw as part of the Nintendo one. So when it came to Ubisoft, I was like, stop riding off the back of Nintendo again. Yeah, just like you to try and steal Nintendo's IP. It's not enough you've got Raving Rabbids Donkey Kong DLC now.
Yeah. I'm just looking through because Nick sent me a bunch of his highlights as well. So I will mention that.
This, by the way, Nick, is for you. The Red Cup. Stay classy.
Red Solo Cup, a Star Wars story.
That was the best thing about EA, the Red Cups.
The Red Cups. Nick's super excited about Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I would agree with Nick on that. That was the thing that I thought looked coolest.
Yeah, it does look cool. It looks super nice.
I've wanted to pick up an Assassin's Creed game because I don't think I've ever actually owned one, so therefore not played it A through Z. I've only ever played other people's one and pissed around on it.
Right.
Well, I back Nick up third as well. I've not played an Assassin's Creed game for a while, but I love ancient Greece. I love ancient Rome. Ancient Greece and ancient Rome are a setting I always have an interest in, and obviously Assassin's Creed started. The game for me that really sold it to me was Assassin's Creed 2 in Florence and Venice and all the expansions, and then when it started to veer into other territories, it didn't feel that it was good. And the ancient Greece setting looks amazing, and it looks like they're revamping the combat a bit, which seemed a bit...
The combat looked really interesting, though.
Stale.
That fight scene on the beach.
The big epic battle kind of thing. It's like, fucking hell, it's all kicking off.
And it didn't look like the Rocksteady fight mechanic that you have in Batman, where it's kind of just you pause and then you counter and you punch. It didn't look like that. It looked like something different.
Yeah, see, it's a shame that Nick isn't here actually to talk about how it looks like it compares to Origins from last year, because I didn't play that either, but I got the impression that they'd done quite a lot of work on that sort of thing in that game, and that looked good too. I feel like this is maybe the one for me to jump back on board with as well.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, because Nick has been so positive about Origins, and it does look really good, and it feels like if it's going to be one for me to actually sit down and go, right, this is going to be my first experience in the series, this might be the point.
Well, if they tweaked everything for Origins and they've improved combat and they've shaken up the tower system and everything, then I'm more interested in ancient Greece than ancient Egypt, so that's what gets me. That's what hooks me in. So
that's totally.
But otherwise, a
my feelings
bit
too.
Meh. Kind of.
Yeah, there was a lot of EA conference in there. Let's put it that way.
Ooh.
I'm just double checking. Nick hasn't got anything from EA. Nope, doesn't look like it. Not surprising. Okay, so let's move on to Square-Enix then. I don't suppose anybody saw that.
I forgot that one existed.
I'm a little bit more interested in the Kingdom Hearts stuff.
See, I don't know.
It's always seemed like a weird mashup to me, because I'm more of a Final Fantasy fan in terms of enjoying 7 and 8. I've gone off it a bit more recently, up until apparently 15's the bee's knees again. But it's always something I've been like, if they brought out the next one, so obviously they've been sat developing this for absolute years.
Yeah.
Rather than try and go back and play Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2 on the older systems, I have access to it. I thought maybe it's the next one that I kind of try out and see if I can get enjoy the combat or the setting or the character mashups or whatever.
See, this new one is like, I've kind of been in a similar boat to you in terms of like, I've been curious about the series for a really long time. I'm not sure what the entry point is. But the way that they are selling this new one is super off-putting to me. Like, there's a lot of like uncomfortable, weird, embarrassing looking story stuff, and not enough of what tells me what the actual like structure of the game is like and what the appeal is there. Well, McGraw's leaving. Well, that's fine.
He's had enough of Kingdom Hearts. That's what pushed him over the edge.
It was also weird to me, speaking of enough of Kingdom Hearts, that the order of the conferences was like first Kingdom Hearts trailer was shown off at Microsoft's.
Yeah.
Then the exact same one again was shown off at Square Enix for no reason. And then
they didn't build on it in the same way.
Yeah. And then there was the third. There was another new trailer shown off in the Sony one, but it didn't do anything to sell me more on it, other than being like, "Hey, look, there's some weird, uncanny valley-ass looking Johnny Depp in this now."
Oh yeah. I did remember thinking it's so close that either it needs to be spot on or it needs to be more ridiculous, because it's like you're right with the Uncanny Valley, it's like a little bit kind of creepy. Like, did they mocap him like 100%, or just their animators that good they don't?
I saw the trailer at the Microsoft one, and I wrote notes to make sure that I remembered things, and I just wrote, "Don't get its appeal." Like
it's an odd crossover, but it has a very dedicated fan base, which is why they brought this game out over 10 years, 12 years since the last one, which is a stupidly long time.
So it's horses for courses. Some people are really into it. That's a phrase. It's a phrase, horses for courses.
Explain what idiom is this?
It's like, there are certain people
To each their own.
To each their own. Yeah.
Okay. Horses for courses.
I mean,
It's like saying
Hookers for lonely Johns.
Horses belong in race courses and nowhere else.
Yeah.
And burgers. Take that, English food industry, with your horse meat.
Take that, other places in the world that actually eat horse.
Speaking of horses.
Yeah.
Bethesda.
Beating a dead horse. There we go. Can we redo that?
Yes.
Can we redo that?
Yeah, all right. Speaking of beating a dead horse, Bethesda.
Oh!
The bet out. Did you guys have Bethesda highlights?
I've written on here, Skyrim on Alexa, fuck off.
Cool.
Because just because, as if
So
they
telling Alexa to fuck off with Skyrim was your highlight of that thing.
Yeah, just going. What else can we release Skyrim on?
That was
Alexa?
the joke, though, wasn't it?
Napkins. Let's release Skyrim on a series of napkins.
All right, I'm listening.
It'll take about a square mile of forest to produce all these napkins. I'm excited for Fallout 76. Obviously, it's their main showpiece, and
that was one of the things Bindi was interested in.
Yeah.
As well.
Because I thought she might be, because this was the whole. Oh, I didn't realize anybody else was into Fallout like I am. Which we learned during our road trip video.
Like and subscribe.
It was just a very obvious use, but appreciated it anyway. Take Me Home, Country Roads.
Yes.
To signal the kind of setting and the the irony of the prequel nature of 76. These are the first people out of the vaults into this world that has just been kind of upside down, and it is set in Virginia. But
Yeah,
I think it was very marked. It was very poignant.
I think they
use of music.
might win best use of music in a
Yeah,
in a trailer.
very on the nose, but still enjoyable. It's
Yeah.
like I want to walk around the wastelands listening to
You can't.
"Take
Yeah.
Me Home, Country Road."
For one thing, it's a great song. For another thing, it is like has a slightly different feel to all of the other Fallout.
Yeah,
trailer
it didn't
songs
feel
that
as
they
bleak.
have. Yeah. So that's cool. Like, yeah, one of the things that made me interested in that game, because I kind of wrote it off after the initial reveal trailer because they didn't say anything about it.
Yeah,
It just looks like more
co-op.
But yeah, I want some co-op, and I like the fact that there are no human people in the world. It's just like mutants and stuff. I'm excited by that as a prospect. That's more interesting to me.
Yeah, because humanity hasn't had time to adjust to a post-apocalyptic world where they set up new civilizations and form like raiders and weird new societies and stuff. It's just humanity as we know it is coming face to face with the atrocities of nuclear fallout. Get it?
Yes.
Oh, no, I understand.
Just
why it's
the
called that.
unknown horrors that they face. I like that. There's no cultivation of a functioning society. It's just pure chaos.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's early days. There's still a lot to be proven with that game, but we'll see how it goes. Like that debut did a lot to sell me on it, I think.
Yeah.
So Nick's highlight of the Bethesda thing was the DLC for Prey, because I know he particularly liked that game and he bought it for me, and I'm interested to play it.
I wrote down that I still really want to play Prey because it was a couple of years ago. There was the trailer. I think it was maybe 2 years ago when we did these discussions. That was one of my highlights of the of that E3. I was like, I really wanted to have a go at it and just never got round to it. Always excited for more things.
Yeah. And the DLC stuff that they're doing with it looks super interesting because it appears to be adding sort of new modes and stuff to it rather than just like, you know, your standard, here's a new like tiny campaign kind of thing, which seems like a better idea to me for that kind of a game.
Yeah.
Well, it always makes me feel better when a DLC, like a game has come out and they've seen how it is, and then they go, right, okay, now we're going to do a DLC for it and we're going to take our time with it, rather than buying a game and then immediately going, oh, there's a load of DLC that you can download straight away, because that just feels like...
Or if it's just the thing of them going like, okay, so we're done with the actual game now, but we've still got like some ideas that we want to play around with now that we have the time to do that.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that makes me interested, when it seems like it's almost a passion project that's come from the developers.
Yeah.
That seems cool. All right, I think we've kind of covered Bethesda, at least the stuff we care about.
Yeah.
Although more Doom is good, and more what's its face, Wolfenstein as well. So
They're very, very mindless, fun shooting games.
Yeah, and Rage does look pretty cool as well.
It'd be interesting to see how they develop Rage.
Yeah,
I had a lot of expectations for Rage, and was trying to see it as a more combat-heavy version of Fallout.
Yes.
So more mindless shooting, and it was a little bit more faffy than that. I didn't quite get on with it. It wasn't as fleshed out as I hoped it would be, so we'll see.
All right, so let's move on to Microsoft then. Let's go to the main big three conferences now. So, what were your guys' highlight of that show?
Sekiro.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean...
That's what you were waiting for.
That was my only thing that I was really like looking forward to seeing more of at E3, and having watched Varty's videos where he has analysed everything and gone into detail. It looks like it's going to be a cool, not Souls game, but
A From Software game.
A cool From Software game with lots of new interesting ways to do combat.
Yeah, it feels like the impression I'm getting is that it's almost going to be like a more action-heavy sort of Metroidvania kind of game, but with based completely around a Souls-style combat system, and that's super interesting. And I'm excited just in general about the idea of software exploring new territory. Because I feel like they are often at their best when they are trying something new.
Have you? So I don't know where it came from, but in Varty's latest video, he talks about some interviews that happened around E3 about it, and he says that apparently it's going to be very much like the first Dark Souls game in that the map is open to you, but there's not even fog gates. So it's the entirety of the game is open to you from the start, and there's
speedrunners galore.
And there's no leveling up per se.
Yeah, I mean, makes that world system work even better in a lot of ways, because it sidesteps the problem that you have in Dark Souls, where you can go any way you want, but if you go down one route and you come across something that's really hard, and then
you don't know what you're doing.
Well, you can also do the thing of like you overcome something difficult and then go back and go through other places you haven't been to. A lot of those other bosses and things will then become a bit trivial for you if you've already kind of gotten right to the end of one pathway. But if leveling isn't so much of a focus, it's more about kind of
different challenges.
Yeah, general skill building and maybe even
understanding the game.
Ability-based things. That makes a lot more sense. So that's super cool. Yeah, I think that was definitely a thing that I'm happy to hear information about. I don't know that I got that much out of the trailer at the Microsoft thing, because it was so short. I wish there was more of it, but but yeah, I'm glad people are talking about it finally.
Yep.
There are a couple of ones that kind of caught my eye a little bit. Metro Exodus, I thought looked really interesting. That was the one with the massive attacks. Might have just been because it had a massive attack song in the trailer. But I thought that it looked really kind of terrifying and atmospheric and cool. Just like a dark shootery thing. I thought that looked interesting.
The last couple of Metro games have I think have been quite underrated. Like I played quite a lot of the first one, and it has like a real atmosphere to it. It feels quite unique. And this one looks beautiful as well. Like technically, it looks super impressive. I'm interested to see see more of that, because it looks awesome. I think that no, never mind. Ignore that part. I'll cut that out.
Edit.
Jamie, did you have anything?
I did. My two takeaways from Microsoft. My funny takeaway is I don't want to play Crackdown 3. I want to play Terry Crews, the video game, because that is the only selling point for Crackdown 3 is Terry Crews running around the city, destroying it, going woo and getting his pump on.
He's got to be an optional character.
If he is not the main character, if I'm not playing Terry Crews, the video game, there is what is Crackdown 3? They've sold me a promise now. I want to run around the city, smashing things.
Right, so here's one
Terry
alternative. There's one acceptable alternative, which is that Terry Crews is the narrator. that is also...
But he has to be constantly narrating everything you do.
Well, that's kind of what it was like in the original Crackdown. Like, if they just doubled down on that more.
Yep.
In fact, if there's a way of having Terry Crews, like, watching a live stream of playing and just commenting on it.
But I also then want to see a video of Terry Crews himself playing Crackdown whilst narrating himself. It needs to get very meta. That was my comedy moment.
I wrote Game Chaps should play next to Crackdown.
Yeah, it had a very generic, feels like Saints Row feel, which I love. Crazy chaos sandbox, but I feel it's starting to lose its edge. Same with Just Cause 4. It's kind of like, I know these are games that massively appeal to me, but I feel like I've had my time with them a bit, so I appreciate that people are still making them and coming up with crazy things, but I feel they've hit a bar, and I don't know how much crazier you can kind of get with it, so no, I mean, I am interested in it, but for me, Cuphead DLC.
Yeah.
The second the music started playing, and I started bobbing up and down. It was like it was my Microsoft highlight from the last E3. The game hasn't disappointed. It's been one of the only few Microsoft exclusive games I've played, and more of them coming out, potentially another character or two, and just more interesting boss rushes and levels. Just get me back in that world. It doesn't matter that it's not a fresh game. I'm happy there's more of it.
Well, even just having like a new character could potentially make the whole game feel fresher anyway, if she works a little bit different.
Well, kind of like the off camera talking about Shovel Knight a bit earlier.
Yeah.
You know, the DLC for Shovel Knight, when it gives you characters that operate kind of in the same way, but have, you know,
totally
bespoke moves to them and different abilities. It makes the game feel fresh. And you go, oh, I want to play an entire new campaign with this person, or they've got different special moves and power-ups, and add in some new bosses, which is, you know, the game's strongest selling point. I will take my money. Somebody take my money.
So, Nick's Microsoft highlight was... oh no, hang on a second. Edit this out, god damn it. Oh, yeah, it was Session, the game that looks really like Skate.
Skate.
Because, he says he's just... the little that they've shown of it is just super appealing to what he wants from a skating game, basically. And the fact that there's nothing else competing in that area as well.
Untapped market.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think that's because Tony Hawk got massively pissed off with the... I believe he got massively annoyed with the last iteration of his game and said, you've messed it up and you've really ruined my franchise. I don't want you to make it anymore.
It's entirely broken.
What happened was that it was Activision, wasn't it? They had they owned the Tony Hawk license for, what was it? I can't remember how long it was, but a certain number of years, and they were getting to the end of their use of the license, so they literally just shat out a game to make a tiny bit of money just at the end of the license, because they could. And clearly they were just like, you've got like 6 months to make this, you've got virtually no budget.
Fuck all budget,
just make something and it doesn't matter. It's super insulting to everyone involved, I think. Especially Tony Hawk and the player base.
I've got it and I cannot play it because the servers are shut down and there is no way to play it without it being online.
Yeah, but that's just because you were griefing people and they've banned you specifically.
I was griefing people from the moment I loaded the disc in.
I heard you just screaming skateboards at people.
Skateboard!
I've got a couple of other ones that I think are worth a little mention.
Yeah, go for it.
I really liked the look of Tunic.
Yes, that game looks good.
Fox
it's
Fox
little sort
Zelda.
Yeah, Zelda-like thing.
That looked. I really liked the look of it. I liked the color palette of it. It was pretty. The gameplay, the extended gameplay for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, really appealed to me because I did really enjoy the Uncharted games, and I've not played any of the Tomb Raider games, and I quite would like to see. I was like, maybe this is the one for me, because as well it's set in a Mayan apocalypse, and
yeah, that helps.
I fucking love the Mayans. I think that they're rad. So
I want that series to go more supernatural. Like, it's one of those ones. It feels like the Indiana Jones films in terms of like, there's some supernatural shit going on. You just don't really get to see it.
Yeah,
and in a video
they always
game,
skirt around it a little bit.
Yeah, in a video game, it feels like that's a wasted opportunity. Because I played the first one and thought it was pretty good, but it was a little bit forgettable. It was enjoyable while I was playing it. But yeah, I got to the end and was like, oh, I wish there was more spooky ghosts and shit. But apparently the second one was pretty good, and I'm sure this next one will be good too. Like, it looks like it knows what it's doing.
And speaking of things that are good too, Dying Light 2 looked really interesting.
Yes. Yeah, I'm interested in that. That was Nick's pick for games.
Nick's
pick for games that we want to see more of. He just wants to learn more about that game.
The consequence system looks genuine. Like, I would like to see what the limitations of it are, but the idea of, there are certain little missions that if you do one thing, then this is the consequence. If you do this thing, then this is the consequence. Having it so that but the whole world properly evolves around.
Well, that was the thing. I didn't know. He was talking about all these consequences, but I feel like they had to. You couldn't just say the word hundreds and get away with it. You need to dive into it a bit more, because the example they gave was a little bit black and white. Mm-hmm. Either you say this and this happens, you say this and this happens. And it reminded me a bit of Dishonored, that, if you take the passive approach through the game, then the world stays like healthy, but the more you make the active decision to kill these targets, the more you poison the world, and the more like rats show up, and it decays and makes the game a nastier place and more difficult to kind of be in. I was kind of like, how far can you really push? Can you think of any game that has really tried to push a morality consequence system in a long-lasting?
I think
more so in a Mass Effect way.
The best example I can think of, and the only one to my memory that has done it really well, is The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Because the choices you were making, like, you never had a good choice to make. You just had to make a morally grey choice. The game holds you accountable for whatever you've done by the end
and
of
much
it.
later as well. Like, you don't know when it's going to come back and bite you.
But in most cases, it really just feels like you are making one choice at the beginning of the game, where you go, am I going to be a dick to everyone, or am I going to try and be the best hero in the world? So I hope there's more to it than that. But even if that's not the case, the fact that they're just doing another one of those games is good for me, because it's still weird to me that more games aren't making use of like cool first-person parkour stuff since Mirror's Edge came out, because it's like it's this thing that just feels good and works well, and makes those kinds of games just have a totally different flavor.
Like you're probably running away from God knows whatever post-apocalyptic kind of creatures and crawling up drain pipes and stuff, and that's like, taking those parkour physics into another interesting scenarios. Like, I'm sure there's so many other scenarios that would work in, but
And you can say what you like about zombies being overdone, but it totally works for that style of play. Because it makes sense to have a game for a change where it's more about running away from zombies than just
blowing their heads off.
strolling through them with a shotgun. Yeah, exactly. So I agree with that. That game looks good. And
Cool.
what else? There was a couple of other ones I wanted to mention. One of them, which surprised me how interested I was Forza Horizon. That game looks nice, and it's like, I'm not a big driving game person, but it seems cool. And seasons do change everything.
I wrote cars are nice for that one.
Cars are nice.
I'm laughing because that's on one of my other lists,
Okay.
but not
Right.
not one of the good ones. So
Oh no.
maybe I'll bring it up then.
Fair enough.
or should I bring it up now? Should I
Go
get out
bring it
of
out
the way?
now. Let's have the talk.
So Horizon Zero Dawn, Forza
Zero Cars.
Horizon Zero Cars 4 is on my I want to see less of list because again, I know I'm not the target market because I'm not interested in car games like
You
that.
don't think cars are nice?
But it's starting to annoy me that this is like near enough one of the flagship games of the Xbox.
Right. Yeah.
And they keep wheeling it out like that's what's gonna be the best Xbox exclusive over like Gears or Halo or whatever. And I've seen enough of it now. It's like GTA for PlayStation. Like, it's done its job. At least PlayStation seems to be moving away from that, and they've picked up new exclusives that make PlayStation. With like, what they've done with kind of The Last of Us and how they've revitalized certain other God of War franchises. But Forza Horizon 4 always seems like all they're doing is just making it look prettier, getting new whatever the latest round of cars is from that year, and then my biggest gripe is they're smashing up the English countryside. That's all they did in that trailer. They drove through Farmer John's field and smashed all of his crops and all of his
That's what
fences.
I like about it.
And don't get me wrong, I'm sure
Farmer Child.
me personally, I would love to drive around the English countryside in a game and trash it up. I want to do that in GTA. I don't want to do that in flipping nicey nice car, look shiny game.
Like, that was one of the things that like drew me in initially, because it was like before I knew where the game was set, before they mentioned it or anything. I was watching it.
You started to like work it out. You're like, oh, that's this area.
This really looks and feels like the UK in a way that very few games do. Like, it's not something that happens that often. And when it does, it doesn't always get the feeling quite right. But it was a game where I was just looking at places and going, I've been to loads of areas,
country village, which looks
that feel exactly like what I'm looking at, and that drew me in. And it's been a while since I played a Forza game. I had Forza 3 on 360 and enjoyed it and didn't feel the need to play another one. And if it's just I play one Forza game a generation and that's fine with me. And I think this may well be the one.
So you're part of the problem then.
No, I'm not buying one every.
Vote with your wallet, Robin. Vote with your wallet.
I am one a generation. That's my rule. All right. Well, let's move on. Oh no! Before we do, I wanted to just mention briefly Cyberpunk.
Yes.
I'm bringing that up in Curious Reserving Judgment. Or we
Fair
can
enough.
talk about it now.
Let's talk about
Talk
that
about it now.
then, because It's a
I'm
cool
I'm
trailer,
curious.
and I'm curious, and the pedigree of CD Projekt is a good thing to be working on any project.
They have my trust still, even though there's
Absolutely.
still so much more to reveal. I
Yeah.
still have trust that
I
this
know.
is going somewhere.
This is Nick's game I want to see more of as well, because he's excited about it. But everything that people who are on at the show and actually got to go and see the preview, people who are doing that seem to be absolutely loving it and it. But the video that we saw didn't show us very much, and I
No.
wish they could have shown more actual gameplay rather than just kind of a taster for the feel of it. Because people are talking about how it's like doing some really clever, interesting things as a first-person RPG. Like it's
I want to see that open world.
like your heads-up display is all based on you having like retina technology, like and stuff like that, and it seems like it's really really going like digging deep into that stuff. And there's like a gang where they're all super into like human augmentation, almost want to become machines completely. Like one of the dudes who confronts you or something has like his face is completely caved in and just has like lights and shit in there. And that's the kind of stuff where I go like, all right, you're really pushing this
concept to its maximum.
yeah, you're really taking it to places where it hasn't necessarily gone before, and that's super interesting. I just wish we that stuff in the trailer.
That's the thing. Like you told me after the Microsoft conference to watch the trailer for it, and I really wasn't very fussed on it. I watched the trailer, and I think it was the choice of song for the trailer actually like made me.
It wasn't Massive Attack, so
No, it wasn't Massive Attack, and it was just a bit like it was a bit weird. And I got the sense for the feeling of the place, but not anything to do with the game. But then I watched the interview with the guy from Code Project Red who had the shaved sides of his head and the big beard, and when he was actually like talking about the game and talking about what, like going into the details that you've just elaborated on, those details seemed really appealing to me. But the trailer itself, for that to be the catching thing for people to go, yes, I want this, that to me, like there seemed to be a disconnect there.
So I'm not sure if it's true that the trailer is all in engine footage. I'm not sure, but from what people have been saying, like it's an extremely like really amazing looking game. I think for that reason, like it might not be one we'll see on this generation of consoles, but it could well be that all of that stuff is kind of stuff which makes it more interesting and worth rewatching, probably. But yeah, I totally know what you're saying, and I agree. Although the song didn't put me off, I was interested. So yeah, let's speaking of being put off, let's talk about Sony.
Oh, really? I for me enjoyed Sony's press conference more because it was quality over quantity.
So
Microsoft's was, we've got 50 games, we've got all these world premieres and exclusives, let's bang 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 these all out, and Sony just kind of went, yeah, we had a little gameplay trailer thing, but we're going to double down. Yeah, we'll make a bit of a fanfare of some of them and have some extra live performances and do some weird shit with it, but we're just going to focus on the main shit.
That's true, and I agree. But the actual reason that you preferred Sony's over Microsoft was because you didn't watch it live. It was because you got to watch it at your own pace. Like,
yes.
what? Because I waited until 2 in the morning. I was super pissed off at the fact that they were really milking it, and the show was kind of a bit of a, like, the structure of it was not well put together. It was
this weird. Let's pause while we switch venues.
Yeah, and like let's do a post, like almost a post-show wrap-up chat among a bunch of random people who are trying to.
Yeah, I had no idea who any of those were.
Well, I knew who a couple of them were, but it wasn't like a conversation worth having, because they weren't giving you any new information. They weren't dissecting what you'd seen at all. So it was just people filling time. And that stuff was annoying. Also, apparently, like, the people who were on the show, actually in the show, were missing a bunch of stuff because they were being moved between locations while new things were playing. So it didn't work for them either. But this is all.
Well, I had a great time.
If we're talking about
Saturday morning with a coffee, yeah.
If we're talking about actual games, it was a good show, for sure. The Last of Us looks like The Last of Us, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Here's a question with The Last of Us, because I was excited, and it's the one I was most looking forward to for Sony. But there was something that I enjoyed, and then when I thought about it afterwards, went, hang on, that's a little bit too good to be true. The middle section of the trailer, the gameplay section, how heavily scripted was that? Because they made a little show of the fact that, like, the hub came up and they did the crafting real time, and they had bits like that. But it was the part when she ran from one cover into the building, and as she did that on the fly, she grabs a bottle from a car and hurls it straight into somebody's faces and then face, and then bypasses them. And I initially went, fuck me, that's really cool, that's really quick thinking, that's interacting with the environment, cool gameplay. And then I just went, would you actually be able to do that motion as fluid as that? Would it really work like that? And it made me look at so many of the parts of the trailer and went,
yeah,
it feels like they're pretending it's gameplay when actually you won't be able to do this, or it's a little bit more scripted than they're letting it on to be.
Naughty Dog are particularly good at that kind of stuff. So it's totally possible. It's just working out where the seams are in that sequence. I think it's like, at what point do you not have control over Ellie and things like that? Or is it a case where, like, that whole thing is as totally open as it appears to be, or is it like you kind of have to go to the next point that she goes in that whole run through of that section, or you're going to be caught or something? Is it something that if you try and do something different, there's going to be a lot of trial and error?
Don't get wrong, I appreciate, for the sake of the video, they wouldn't have been in the wrong place at the wrong time, which would have made them fail that section or get completely gunned down or whatever. But it was the little subtle things which seems like great improvements to combat mechanics or stuff, which are kind of like, how much of that is, her when she's crawling around, sees a guy, takes out her bow and takes him down in one shot and then picks up the arrow. All very believable. When she gets an arrow stuck in her, there's an R1 prompt which is left up on screen for ages because she hasn't got time to take it out until she's in the safe zone, and that's a new feature now, which obviously that maybe slowly drains her health until she has time to recover. That's very cool, but it's, some other things was kind of like unclear how the mechanics actually work and whether it was a set piece.
Like the thing when she hides under the,
when she hides under the truck.
Because that's a cool moment. I could see why they would want to force you to do that.
It was really tense.
Yeah.
The whole thing, it was quite...
And the sequence in the shop, the last bit of combat as well, like, how does that play out? And because the way it was shown was very much like your fight with the heavy dude who she kills last was like, when she gets to the point of actually killing him, that bit felt very scripted in the way that it was leading into the next the next bit of
Cinematic, yeah.
yes.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
there are a lot of
Interested, but I maybe need to go and look at more gameplay stuff outside of that to not
Yeah.
get any false expectations. But I'm excited still.
It's one of those ones where it's almost like you could almost have not shown me any of them and just like waited until you were ready to share something a bit more concrete, because most of that was just like, this is really impressive looking, but I don't know what's real. And
And we
also
know it's
it
going to
kind
be
of-
impressive, so why do you
Yeah.
need to do this?
And we know what The Last of Us is. We know it's going to play kind of like
Yeah.
that. But it did do a good job of reminding you how intense those sequences feel.
It reminded me of when we played it for the marathon,
Yeah.
and just that pure feeling of just like, oh, everything like clenches up inside you when you're in the room full of clickers and you're suddenly like, oh, shit, there's just loads of stuff I need to do.
Or she has like 5 bullets and then she runs out and you're like, you're fucked. You've got nothing on you. You've got like 2 arrows.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get hand to hand, and there's 5 people walking into this room. You can't hand to hand all of them. What the hell do? You have to think on the fly. You have to move around. Those bits I like, absolutely.
All right. Well, moving on then. Ghost of Tsushima, I think looks very good, and largely because it seemed to be entirely real. Like everything presented looked like an actual game, and a really phenomenal looking one as well.
I thought that the combat looked really interesting, and I would want to know more about how the combat system works in that
Yes,
game.
same. Yeah,
I mean, you know, I've already dubbed this E3 the year of the samurai.
yes.
Because you got this, Shadows Die Twice, Neo 2's announced. God tell me if the next Assassin's Creed isn't set in feudal Japan, you know.
I want a
It
samurai.
was Pirates. It was Pirates
Yes.
a couple of years ago. I played a Samurai Jack game way back on the GameCube.
Did you? Did they
Yeah.
have one?
Yeah, it was repetitive, but it was actually quite fun.
See, I mean, now I want Samurai Jack in.
Oh,
Sorry?
did anyone else just hear that?
What?
I just had Samurai Jack and then it stopped.
I heard Samurai Jack, and then I heard the Universal intro. Da 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 da. I shit you not. Did either of you two just play something?
No.
What
Right,
the
this
hell?
There's-
Okay, my computer's haunted by. Well, sadly for me,
Internet
that means work. So the less we talk about Universal, the better.
Anyway, I just said I want Samurai Jack in. That was my thing. Anyway,
Ghost
Tony.
Giant.
Sony, Ghost,
Giant.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Giant.
Ghost of Tsushima. Was this? Hang on, let me just check it. See if Nick's got anything to say about this. If my phone will let me.
See if he's a Sony pony.
Do 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 do.
My other only little
Okay.
mention for Sony was, I believe, well, I've obviously watched this out of order. That was when I first saw Resident Evil 2 trailer.
Oh yeah, that's that's
So that's a game I've always wanted to play. I wouldn't have done beforehand because I couldn't deal with the fixed camera angles of the old style. If they've made this Resi 4 over the shoulder, but still keeping it quite survival horror,
yeah.
in tradition, not much gun gameplay, but that control. Boom.
Yeah.
I'm in.
It's what's true of that and of Spider-Man, although more the case with Spider-Man, I think, is that I got a hell of a lot more watching actual in-game footage after the show was over than I did watching
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
actual trailers. Like, especially with Spider-Man, like I didn't feel like I needed to see any of what they showed. Thing, but when they cut to actual footage around the city afterwards, I was sold on it because it looks really it looks really fun, and that's what everybody's waiting to see. That's Resident Evil 2 looks looks really brilliant based on what I've seen of somebody actually playing the first area.
Yeah. I was just going to say on the Spider-Man one, as much as I did also want to see all the web slinging mechanics and how that works, and what everybody's hands-on thoughts for that. I would actually have to say, as part of the gameplay trailer, that was probably the only gameplay trailer that actually had me intrigued on the story.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I'm a fan of the TV shows, all of Spider-Man's. The same way I like the villains in Batman's universe. I like the villains in Spider-Man's universe, and seeing them all together and trying to work out what the plot is and what's going on. That for me was actually a selling point, and I didn't mind however much of that gameplay and trailer was scripted to get to that point. It had me intrigued.
Yeah.
In any other case, I was like, I want to see more gameplay from this game. I don't want to see less of the cinematics. I was interested in the cinematics of Spider-Man, which I was very surprised I was.
Fair enough. I like the fact they left you on the cliffhanger of who's it gonna be? Because I think most people know it's like clearly they're setting up this to be a Sinister Six game.
Yeah.
But there are multiple different versions of that team, so it could be Venom, it could be Green Goblin or Hobgoblin. I really hope it's Mysterio, because that would be fucking hilarious.
Yeah. The lizard.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, that's it for PlayStation, isn't it?
Ghost Giant. I love the look of that game. It makes me so excited.
Ghost Giant
a use of VR to do immersive storytelling of you as a third person looking down, and that the person is aware of you, so you're guiding the narrative, and it's about like developing a relationship between you and the character.
Yeah.
I think that looks like a really interesting, cool use of VR. And it was the second Ghost game, and to me, I was more excited about that than the Ghosts of Sashimi.
Fair enough.
Somebody buy VR so we can actually play some of these.
Yeah, not me.
If you want to donate a PlayStation VR to the Game Chaps, our PO box will be in the description below.
Now we have to set up a PO box, dummy. It's going to cost us more than PSVR.
Okay, we'll just put Robin's home address. That's fine.
That's fine.
Don't send bags of poo.
See my home address and bank details below. And national insurance.
Nintendo!
Before we move on from the Sony thing, Nick did also mention Remedy's game Control is one of the ones he wants to see more, which appeared in the Sony thing.
I thought that looked really interesting.
That is on my... I'm very curious about this list.
Yeah.
Because I feel it's what Quantum Break didn't quite achieve, and they're still pursuing that concept, but to the nth degree now. They've really ramped up the... whatever it's going to be, but it just seems more abstract than before.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the fact that it seems to be going... more
crazy.
Strange.
They're just playing with time and space.
Yeah, and more. You seem to be more powerful than you are in Quantum Break.
50 quid then says it's an Alan Wake novel.
I'd really like that. Oh no, I want it to be secretly an Alan Wake too. Like it just turns out halfway through that like Alan Wake is somehow in like scripting all of the weird shit that's happening.
That would be good. I mean, I know where this is on your list, Robin, but Death Stranding, before we move on to Nintendo.
Oh god, I completely forgot about Death Stranding. Okay, yeah, carry on.
I got less out of the long form trailer than I got out of the thing that kind of looked like what the gameplay was. I can kind of see more what it's about, but I'm still not totally sure.
I'm losing interest a bit.
Yeah, that was my... I want to see less of this game. Because for the simple reason that it feels a bit. At this point, it's starting to feel very self-satisfied with just being weird and confusing for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And it felt like maybe Sony pushed them to show more of the game because they know people want to know what it is, and Kojima wasn't ready to do that, so he was like, sure, yeah, I'll show you what basically counts as gameplay, but doesn't really give you any more information about it.
Yeah, if gameplay is just wandering around a random desert at the minute, avoiding invisible creatures, I'm like, okay. And
Okay, pass.
yep, okay. Anything else?
Yeah, because
Who
it
knows?
didn't really give us anything with other than there is maybe a lot of walking involved, but we don't know.
And there's still a baby in your chest.
There is still a baby.
Oh, look, baby! Look, it's the wake up! It's the evil things. I thought that was quite funny, actually. It was like, look, baby, look, and the baby's like, oh.
The baby seems super like hyped about being involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair play to the baby.
Fair play, baby. All right, let's head on to Nintendo.
Which McGraw didn't watch all of.
No, because I only got I watched some of it.
It's one of the shortest.
I only started watching the Nintendo one like an hour before we started talking, and so I looked at the highlights.
Nintendo, more like Nintendo. No, finish that sentence.
Overcooked 2.
Overcooked 2.
Overcooked 2. Yeah, I mean, I think we've had this conversation, but we'll definitely be playing that.
Watch this space. August.
This video,
10th.
this video that we made of us playing Overcooked. It's
I'm not putting it in.
somewhere. Robin, you need the thing in the corner.
I'll put you in the corner.
Nobody puts McGraw in the corner,
I'm going to.
other than Patrick Swayze. Rest in peace. Nintendo.
I think one thing I really liked, many actual release dates they put on everything that they showed.
Yeah.
And how most, like pretty much all of them were within the next 6 months, if not maybe like February with Fire Emblem, and that was about it.
Yeah, I was. The one thing I noticed generally across the board, loads of people are releasing games on either the 26th or the 29th of June, and I don't know why. That number came up a lot.
Yeah.
29th is a Friday.
It's not like some weird public holiday or something, I don't know. I saw that was nothing.
Why, it's St. Gaimansworth.
Oh, there should be a national holiday for playing video games, where everyone gets the day off, if you like video games, and loads of companies release games on that day deliberately, so it means you have so much choice.
See, I feel like there should be a public holiday for like friends, called like Buddies Day, where you just get to hang out with your friends. I think
Buddies
that would be
Day?
good. Buddies Day.
My highlight for Nintendo, very surprisingly, off the slightly more mainstream stuff, Fire Emblem Switch.
Yeah, it looks good.
A long-term fan of Fire Emblem games, loved all the handheld ones on the Game Boy and the DS, and then going into the ones on the GameCube as well. And then at some point, Fire Emblem became more of a brand franchise than the core game itself, and they started doing lots of crossovers, or started like taking the game but putting in it like a new setting that wasn't very Fire Emblem. Use of crap words. And so I've been a bit distant from the season, not the season, from the games for a little while. But the second I started seeing this trailer, the combat instantly took me back to how it looked on some of the GameCube ones, and I went, those are games long before I played Fallout or Skyrim or whatever, big open world games. Those were games that I lost 60, 70 hours in, like way back in the day, and that's because the stories were engrossing and the combat was really fun. You built your team together. Yes, I can see there's some new mechanics which look interesting, and there's a lot of gumph around the story, which is off-putting to a lot of people. But seeing some of the core combat and how it works on the rock paper scissors element and everything visually was very pleasing to me. So that actually is my biggest takeaway from Nintendo.
Mm. It looks really good. This is the one where I'm going to get in on Fire Emblem, because
Yes.
I've been.
Oh my god! If we can do multiplayer on that would turn me.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, if we can, we'll definitely give it a go. Because it's been something I've been interested to get into for a while, but just never got to it. And this looks super good, beautiful as well. Like I think Fire Emblem's had my favorite use of cell shading for quite a while.
Yeah.
And just to have a super nice, like 1080p cell shaded game come up for a change is really nice, because it's underused.
I would say it was a little bit annoying that there was at least 3 other games of some sort of JRPG variation of like Xenoblade Chronicles or Tales of Vesperia, and in other conferences, which if you just intercut all the like cutscene trailer parts,
and outside
very,
of
very
it,
difficult to tell them apart.
Yeah.
It's kind of like insert generic JRPG. So when you see the combat of Fire Emblem, it's reassuring to know they haven't lost that root, and that's what defines it as a game.
Yeah.
I kind of don't care what the story is as long as the core gameplay mechanics are rock solid.
Yeah. So moving on, let's talk about Smash Bros, because that's, for obvious reasons, my Nintendo pick, and largely that's because there wasn't that much else that they showed, really, that was kind of...
Well, here's half an hour of Smash Bros. We hope you like Smash Bros.
There were a lot of other games where I was like, okay, I'm excited about Mario Tennis, and I really want to play Captain Toad again, and stuff like that. But I'm really excited about all of these small changes they're making to that game. Going along with your prediction that you made prior to the show, Jamie, it does feel very different. It does feel a lot. It feels very new and looks good. Especially like the granular details. I don't think they presented in a particularly exciting way, but a lot of them that they talked about and in the Treehouse streams afterwards, there are some particular details that make that game really exciting from just a basic play point of view, like the fact that there's a battlefield version of every stage is a fantastic thing, and just little character changes I'm super excited about. Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say, this is actually a question raised by my brother.
Yeah.
His thoughts. I'm gonna shoehorn him in there because he did raise an interesting question about it. They've gone to all this trouble to get every single character. They're making all these like really core refinements and tweaking it to be the most perfect Smash Bros ever. What have they done to incentivize anybody who's never played the Smash Bros game to play it before? Because to him, he felt like this was them massively just going, you know what, we've got our fan base now, we're going to perfect this for our fanboys. But, advertising that has every single character ever appeals more so to anybody who's played games before, rather than, remember all those characters you never played before? Well, you can play them now. Other people are like, well, great, how does that appeal to me? What is this the direction Smash Bros is going? Is it going to get just more and more refined on the core features rather than trying to explore newer, expansive things to a wider audience? Do you think?
So this fits in with what I was about to mention, which is the fact that I'm convinced that they are perhaps not cleverly holding back information on a single player mode, because they didn't mention it at all, and I really wish they had, because that would have turned me from going, cool, I'm really happy with everything that's going on with this, but that's what I really want to turn this into I'm really glad that I'm going to play this game, this is something I can get really excited about and potentially sell other people on. I really hope that they are. Like I don't want another Subspace Emissary, but something, even if it's like it, there needs to be something to draw other people in. You're right. And having some kind of adventure mode with like some cool story stuff going on, because it's such a missed opportunity otherwise. I really hope that they're holding it back, and they have. During some of the Treehouse things, they were playing a bit coy about the fact that they were holding some information back, and we're going to be dishing some of that out later in the year. So I'm hoping that that's the thing, that like, you know, closer to the launch, they have a big Smash Bros. Nintendo Direct exclusive thing, and it's just like, cool, here is something to be excited about and something that's going to draw outsiders. And I'm hoping it's going to be a cool adventure mode.
But cool that it's coming out in December.
For sure.
I've gone are the days of wondering when the next Smash Bros. Are coming out. I think they've got a firm handle on it. So
yeah, and like just the approach of generally going like, hey, we announce a game and you'll be able to play it within a year is really nice.
Well, to me,
that's a
like,
good trend.
As someone who doesn't probably follow every bit of news as much, it's kind of like you want to have it go like, here's something for you to get excited about, and by the time that we come to the next one, it will be out and you'll have been able to play it. I don't like those games that kind of you see something at E3 and then a year later it's still saying, it's
some more of it at E3. Beyond Good and Evil, I would say that about that. They haven't overly developed it for my liking in a year.
I'm still not convinced that's a video game. They're saying things that make it seem like one, but that and Death Stranding, I don't think they're real video games.
No. Yeah, Death Stranding actually being worse than what they've shown a year later. But
actually, I have heard some people talk some details they spoke about to the press exclusively to do with Beyond Good and Evil, and it was way more interesting than the whole of the trailer, which is just the fact that there's the creator character mode is to do with like almost kind of class-based in terms of like you're creating your own like human mutant, and whatever kind of like animal DNA you splice your character with gives you different kind of buffs and abilities, and I think that's super cool and interesting as an idea.
Of elephant penis.
Exactly. All right, well, I reckon it's time we start wrapping up. So what have you guys got to mention that you haven't yet?
On games that I wish that I'd seen less of, and kind of thematically with things that haven't changed much in a year, Days Gone. I'm into the idea of it, but I didn't feel like I got anything more.
Where has the time gone?
I didn't get anything more from that gameplay thing that they did.
Did they do a gameplay thing with Days Gone? It wasn't in the actual show.
It wasn't in the actual show, but
okay,
I found a thing about it. Right. They did this whole long, it was like a half-hour thing about Days Gone, and all they did was they showed this what you saw in the trailer from last year, but played in a video game.
I don't get Days Gone at all at the moment. Like, they're right. They were right to not show it to The Last of Us. It's just gonna look like a pale imitation. They need to show something that makes it, gives it a bit of its own personality to show off. Because I'm totally not sold as well.
And my final thing that is kind of, I'm really happy to see how many games were kind of advertising the fact that they had couch co-op.
Yes.
That made me really happy. I know that they like the Battletoads thing. They were like, "Oh, it's got 3-player couch co-op," and I don't really short of when you guys
And also,
play
it's not a real game yet, so
all of those things. But like the way that they're like, "Oh no, we're going to sit down. You can sit and play it." Mario Party. You can
Yes.
sit down. You can
Oh
play it.
god, yes, totally forgot about that. I'm excited for that. I
yeah,
want to
I
play that
am
with you
too.
guys.
Actually, I am. I think we should maybe that should be a GUI. Mario Party, Super Mario Party, ruin your life. So
Yeah, destroy your liver edition.
yeah.
True that.
And I'll be there too.
I had overall game was Shadows Die Twice.
Yeah.
See less of Horizon Zero Thoughts of Dawn 4. Curious about Remedy's control, and this is just a stupid little silly one because it got me hooked for what it is. I'm curious about Justin Roiland's game. I want to see more of that.
Yes.
And like, I'm bathtub guy. This is a thing that's happening. Yeah, check it out. No idea what's going to happen with that game, but I know I want it.
It looks so
I'm a
Justin
sucker.
Roiland.
I'm such a sucker for that brand of his comedy.
It was quite
Whatever
fun
he
seeing
does.
the sort of confused silence of that trailer.
Yeah, no, I thought it was
People going,
wasted on that
okay,
audience.
this is a Rick and Morty.
That's when I knew, you know, the Sony conference is all right. They've got this Justin Roiland game. That's cool. So yeah, I'm curious. What's that about? What's going to happen? Who knows?
I also I found it funny that Sea of Thieves basically seemed to have picked up the Monkey Island games and gone, can we put Monkey Island in Sea of Thieves? And
See, I missed this too, but that sounds like a good idea.
They did. They've got 2 new additions for Sea of Thieves.
Cool.
One which is zombie pirates.
Yeah.
And one where you're going to get some. I can't remember what the other one is. But the whole trailer was based around going to a voodoo lady on an island and giving her a crystal ball, and then she tells you all of these terrible things that are going to happen because these are all the DLCs. And it was Monkey Island. There was even a big giant crystal skull that looked like Murray.
Cool.
And so I was like,
That sounds alright.
it
sounds
looked
like
like
a
they're
good way forward.
adding these things they're adding stuff to Sea of Thieves to make it more interesting.
Yeah.
I just wish that it was on the PlayStation.
Meh.
I'd like to play it.
I'm still happy just watching it on YouTube. I think it's a game I appreciate. To have everybody commit to that on Xbox isn't going to happen, but I
Yeah.
can still enjoy the ridiculous highlights of other people playing it.
Cool.
So bring it on.
Excellent. I think I've said everything I want to say. I didn't really pick a game of the show. Fucking.
Yeah, there was-
What about? I don't know. Can't think of it.
I just felt there was just a lot of decent things. Like, I'm
Yeah.
interested in that. There was
Yeah,
no
for
one
sure.
like I've lived and died for this moment. This is the one that I've waited all my life for, or I'm so hyped about. It's kind of like there was some good stuff here, and that's how I think I like E3.
We've not talked about how excited we are for the new Elder Scrolls game and how great that looks.
That was actually one of Nick's points of like, why even show that?
Skyrim on napkins, guys. It's going to be big. Come on, invest now.
And
For
I
50k.
I felt like that too. It's just don't. What are you fucking doing? Don't do that.
Oh, we're working on a game that you.
Yeah,
knew
I
that
know
we
you're
were.
working on a game.
That's literally your job.
That's your job.
If you weren't, I'd be worried. If the entire Bethesda, the entire game development
wasting
department of Bethesda were just working on more ports of Skyrim, I would be worried if they weren't doing anything new.
What guys? What else? We've got napkins.
Horse races. We can get Skyrim into horse races.
Good. Grand
It
National.
ju- it
Skyrim
felt-
Grand
What was it? Horses for courses. What was that?
Horses for courses.
Horses for
It felt like
Kingdom Hearts.
they sent someone on their art team to waste like a week coming up with a font and a fucking bit of barren rock to show.
Metroid Prime 4 last year. That was just a logo.
Yeah, but it was just a logo. Like, it was basically a font in front of space. So it felt like I could have done that in half an hour. Like, so that's fine. Nobody was wasting
They probably
time.
nicked some fan art for that. They probably didn't even do it themselves.
Yeah. It's just like Unreal assets or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You know
Cool.
what? Metroid Prime 4, my game of the show. Because it knew not to turn up when it didn't have anything.
Yeah. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything. That's a saying I can get behind. Now this horse is malarkey.
Yeah. Alright. Cheers,
Speaking
gents.
of malarkey. Yeah.
Good chats.
Good E3 chats.
Looking
We've been the
forward
beards.
to actually playing some of these games soon.
Mm.
Speak soon.
Peace out.
Sweet tramp.